Merry Christmas.
Yes.
You know, let's try this way. Good morning.
Yes.
And Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So we're getting into that season, huh?
Yes,
we are.
Yes, it is. It feels like it out there, too, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. Wow. So we're getting there. We are getting there. So it seems like there was this little boy, and he went to Sunday school with his little Sunday school class and so on. And that day the teacher said, now I want you to draw a picture of the nativity scene. So they all turned in little pictures and so on. This one little boy, he said, and there he had the manger and, you know, and the stable, and he had Mary and Joseph, and he had some wise men there, and he drew some camels and so on. And then right above the manger was a circle. So the teacher says, well, I understand all this, but what's this? And the little boy goes, oh, that's round John Virgin. Have to think about that one.
Round John Virgin.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Punk.
To let us know it was over.
Well, that's amazing how we hear things sometimes, isn't it? So today we're going to be talking about a very familiar subject. As soon as I find my little clicker here. And it's but I want to, as always, just kind of get ourselves in the right mindset and in the right mood to just kind of take in what Spirit has for us. So if you would, say with me our opening statement. I am here right now with an open heart and an open mind, ready to receive the message and learn the lesson Spirit has for me today. And so it is. And so it is. So today we're going to be talking about the Lord's Prayer. And I thought it might be a good way to even just get into the Christmas season. We don't always connect the Lord's Prayer with the Christmas season, but I think if you really take the Lord's Prayer to heart, you're going to find it kind of sets up the whole attitude for what Christmas is really about. And as we look at this, the Lord's Prayer, what I'm going to share with you today is probably going to do one of two things for you. I hope you get a deeper understanding of the Lord's Prayer, and on such a level that it will either have you saying the Lord's Prayer in a much deeper way, or you'll never want to say it again. Because it could scare you. What I'm about to share with you about the Lord's Prayer. Hopefully it will be the first. Okay? We will understand this in a much, much deeper way. So let's start with the very beginning of the Lord's Prayer, which says, Our Father. Now, as I researched this and I started looking into the Old Testament, God was only about 2 or 3 times in the whole Old Testament referred to as Father. That's pretty amazing. It's only about actually 3 or 4 references in the Old Testament where they refer to God as their Father. It wasn't until Jesus came along and started referring to God as Father, and he did so many, many times, but it was all done in the context that we see it here in the Lord's Prayer, where he says, Our Father. When it was done in the Old Testament, it was referred to only the Jewish people. Everyone else was excluded. He was the Father of the Jewish people. And then Jesus comes along and he says, no, our Father. And he opened it up to everybody. Now, with that statement alone, that really says a lot, doesn't it? Jesus standing there saying, Our Father. When Jesus made that statement, that was long before this thing called the Bible came about. The Bible really wasn't put together until about over 300 years after he died. And up until that time, Jesus was looked at by most of his followers as a prophet. He was not looked at as the only Son of God. It wasn't until the Bible was put together by an emperor called Constantine that he was referred to as the only Son of God. So I don't believe Jesus ever taught that he was the only Son of God. I believe he taught exactly what he said in this prayer. Our Father. So that God is all of our Father, not just Jesus' Father. He wasn't the only son, or if we can take it out of the gender, daughter of God. He was not the only child of God. We are all God's children. And so you heard me say this before, when I was in Baptist seminary and I was taught that he was the only son of God, the best I thought I could ever hope for was adoption.
And that's what was taught, too.
It was, yeah, that you were adopted into God's family. Right? And Jesus says, no, our Father. So I think that very first statement says a whole lot about what was going on in terms of Jesus' thinking of who he was and who you are. All right? So our Father says a lot. Now let's go to that next statement. Who art in heaven. Where is heaven? Where did Jesus say it was? He said it wasn't there. It wasn't over here.
Within.
It's where?
Within.
It's within. And when we say within, we know what he really meant is within what? Not within your body.
Within our mind.
Within your
Mind.
mind. Because we know it's all taking place in
Mind.
mind. Right? All right. So we've determined heaven is with mind. So when he says here, who art in heaven, what's he really saying? Who is in your mind? Our Father who is in our mind. That is really what he's saying there. There's a great line from A Course in Miracles that says this. Heaven is not a place, nor a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness. It's saying it's in mind, right? An awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there is nothing else. Nothing outside this oneness and nothing else within. That's heaven. Okay? And it's in mind. So he's saying our Father who is in our mind is really what it's saying. So, if there is nothing in heaven but perfect oneness, can there be guilt in heaven?
No.
No. So God is in a place in your mind where there is no guilt. Pretty interesting, huh? Because God doesn't dwell with guilt. God dwells in heaven. Now, the way the Course in Miracles helped me understand this was, it says that it appears like our mind is split. That's what it looks like when we're humans. So there's a part of our mind where God dwells, and there's a part of our mind that the Course calls the ego. Because, well, if there is no guilt in heaven and God is in your mind, is there any guilt in your mind? Maybe a little? Do you ever get upset with anybody else?
Yeah.
No, I'd say there's guilt in your mind. Okay? So it's in a part of your mind where God doesn't dwell. All right? So our Father who art in heaven, which is in that part of our mind, the Course calls your right mind, is where God resides. Now we do know that God is eternal. God is changeless. We say God is peace, God is love, God is joy, God is truth. Okay? Guilt cannot coexist with those. That's why we walk around in a state of confusion all the time. That's why we feel like we don't know sometimes. That's why we doubt sometimes. Because we carry two conflicting belief systems within our mind. So the part that we want to get to is that part where God dwells, which is that part that's about love. And that's what the spiritual path is about, moving to that part of your mind. Okay? So we know that that's where God is. Hallowed be thy name. It's another great line in A Course in Miracles. It says, hallowed be the name of God and of you, for your name is one. What is the first unity principle? We just said it earlier.
There's
and
only
then sang
one
it.
presence and one power.
One presence, one power. There is only one. Hallowed be the name of God and yours as well, because they are the same. We are one with God. So hallowed be your name as well, when you're in your right mind. Okay? When you're in your right mind.